It is that time of year once again, folks. It's pick'em time. It is my weekly picks tournament, and it is returning for its 9th season here on YouTube. What's going on, everybody? I'm Mac, back with another video. As always, do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, follow on Instagram. Link is down in the box below. So if you guys know me, you know that these are my favorite videos that I put out here on my channel. These are my weekly picks of the NFL with my Pick'em tournament. Your defending reigning champion of Pick'em is coming back. Yes, I won the Super Bowl. First time I've ever done so in this tournament. And I am indeed coming back. So it's going to be a little bit different this year. There's going to be slightly different members this year. I went from 64 to 48 just because of the time that the diminished time that I have right now outside of my personal life. So I had to make a few sacrifices. But we do have some addition with subtraction this year. So we do have some new members. So just want to go over the rules real quickly. Pretty simple. So basically, as the NFL season goes by, every member makes their picks for that week's game, and the member predicts who wins each game, and they have to only give a score for one game, which I will be getting into in just a little bit. So basically, for every game that you guess correctly, you receive a win and 2 points. Every game that you get incorrectly is a loss and you do not get anything. However, you need to have 3 important picks every week. You need an upset. You need a game where you pick the spread, which is the only game that you need a score for, and one lock of the week. If you correctly guess your spread pick or go over the spread, you are awarded the point difference for your score points. So let's just say for this week, for example, you pick the Steelers to beat the Falcons, let's say 20-17. If Pittsburgh covers the spread, then that would be a win and 3 points. Or if they go over it, then you get the point differential. But even if the Steelers lose and they still cover the spread, you get a loss, but you also get the points because you predicted Pittsburgh to cover the spread. You get what I mean right there? So that's how that works. I want to clear that up. I'm not that jackass that gives everyone a tie in records if ties happen. I just count ties as a free win. So there's pretty much the deal with that. Standings are going to be posted after every week on my Instagram, so be sure to follow that. And then we got the playoffs, coming up after that. But obviously, it's just week 1 of the season, so I'm not going to worry about that yet. But yeah, if you are unsure, just use this video as a guideline. You'll catch on to it real quickly. I am recording this currently on August 17th, and it's premiering right now on September 2nd, aka Labor Day. So some things may have changed during that time span. I just want to let you guys know that right now. But yeah, these are my week 1 picks, man. The spreads will be updated as the weeks go on, so that way the spread will be as accurate and as certain as it possibly can be. But yeah, let's get on to it, man. These are my week 1 picks. 2024-25 NFL season. Let's get it on, baby. And it all starts off on Thursday night when the Baltimore Ravens head on to Arrowhead to play the back-to-back Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, this is your game of the week right here, and it should be a dandy in all aspects. The Ravens, they had a couple of pretty big losses in free agency, but according to the fan base and according to the front office, they were necessary losses, but only time will tell with that, as they did bring in a new defensive coordinator. Lamar Jackson is coming off of his 2nd MVP season, so there is a lot of hope over in Ravenland. I do think, however, they still need to really upgrade at receiver, but Lamar Jackson seems to make the difference at quarterback. They also added Derrick Henry at running back, so that run attack by the Ravens is just even more deadly at this point. Then you got to take a look at Kansas City. All you got to really say about them, Patrick Mahomes. As long as 15's under center for him, they'll always be relevant and they'll always be a Super Bowl favorite. However, the Chiefs are not perfect in this game as their O-line is dealing with injuries. They did lose Javarius Sneed, so I think that's going to really affect their man-to-man scheme that the Chiefs have been known to play in the past couple of seasons. But Xavier Worthy was a great draft pick. They can thank Buffalo for that. And I think if they just get Isaiah Pacheco going and Mahomes keeps going off, Kansas City just always has a chance, but you can never really count out on that Ravens defense right there. So obviously, I can really see this going either way. But the fact that the Ravens, outside of 2021, have always struggled against the Chiefs, I expect that to continue a little bit right here. I am going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs to win this game. I think the Chiefs start off 1-0. I think the Ravens will keep it close. But really, when it comes to the grand scheme of things, I just never trust the Ravens going up against Mahomes. I'm going with the Kansas City Chiefs to get the job done over the Ravens. Then we got some Friday night football under the lights as it takes place outside of the United States. I believe it takes place in Brazil, if I'm not mistaken. Please correct me in the chat or the comments below. But we got the Green Bay Packers going up against the Philadelphia Eagles outside of the United States on Friday night. So this might be a first right here. Very interesting matchup right here. I think that Jordan Love is very capable of being the leader of this Packer team, and that showed especially in the playoffs and down the final phases of last season. The Packers made the playoffs. They were a surprise team for a bunch of people, myself included. I said Green Bay was going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL in 2023, and I was sadly mistaken for that. And they added to that team right there. I think McKinney adding McKinney from the Giants is a big upgrade on the secondary right there. I think they drafted real well as well, but they do have some poor corners right there as far as the secondary goes. And I think that, going up against the Eagles, they have what it takes to expose that as Jalen Hurts is coming back and he now has a new offensive coordinator with Kellen Moore. So that's going to be a big chore right there for Green Bay, especially going up against a wide receiver like A.J. Brown. Green Bay's interior O-line, I think, got a little bit better. So Philly's pass rush and their defense in general really needs to step things up. But if there's one thing that really hurt the Eagles down the final phases after they had that 10-1 start, whatever it was, their pass defense got beat up real badly. And I think no other game showed that more than the 49er game that they had late last season. And I really think this matchup here could have all the intangibles to be kind of like a carbon cut out of that game, seeing how well the Packers played with the pass offense down the final phases. So I was kind of back and forth. Philly, they do have a new defensive coordinator as well with Vic Fangio, and he's a really good defensive-minded guy as well. So really, I was kind of back and forth about this one, but I'm actually going to roll and take the Packers on this one. I think that they just have more momentum going into this one. I don't know really if Philly is fully recovered from that, collapse that they had towards the final phases. And my X factor, I'm always going for X factors in these type of videos. My biggest X factor, as I just said, Green Bay's pass offense against Philly's pass defense. I think that's a mismatch right there. I'm going to roll with the Packers to get the job done over the Eagles to start off the season 1-0. Next, we got the Sunday slate of games. And batting first, we got my matchup. The Pittsburgh Steelers heading on down to Atlanta to play the Falcons. Arthur Smith going up against his old club. So, like I said in my schedule predictions and my season predictions, I may have said, I don't remember if I did. But anyway, I know I said for sure in my schedule predictions, it's a double-edged sword. On one hand, Arthur Smith can really implement the offense here, and he can really get Najee Harris and Jalen Warren off and running because he knows that type of offense right there. And I think his offense can benefit both Russell Wilson and Justin Fields here. So that's one hand. But the other hand, like I just said at the beginning, the Falcons know Arthur Smith. They know how he rolls. So it's a big double-edged sword going into this one right here for us personally. Justin Fields, I'm not basing everything solely off of preseason, but it seems like his inaccuracy is still a big concern. And while his arm is strong, he needs to just really hit up on those receivers well. So I got no doubt that Russell Wilson is going to make the start for week 1 right here. And I really think that can benefit us because I'm not completely in love with Atlanta's defense. They got an okay defense, but it's not great. They're definitely sus, and they do have holes on their defense, which I think Russell Wilson is capable of exploiting. And I do think that the run game can get it going right here. I'm going to have more of this in my preview video. I'm going to have out hopefully by Friday. But yeah, I just think Atlanta's defense has holes in it that we can expose. And now that we don't have that trash can Matt Canada calling the plays, and we especially don't have the trash QB room that we had last year, I think this is just a new life on offense that we're looking at right here. That's not to say Atlanta didn't make any moves because they most certainly did. I mean, sure, adding Matthew Judon to that defense may help a little bit, but overall, I just see an Atlanta defense that's just very mediocre in my opinion. But the biggest one by far, they got Kirk Cousins in the offseason. I think he's going to be the starter, hands down. Now he has Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts to work with as well. So Atlanta, they figure to have a really solid year offensively. That's where it comes into play in this defense. I think the defense really has to be on their toes here. The defense was a league leader in fewest points allowed last year. And I think with this defense right here, it should have no excuse to not have it continue with that. Seeing that we added Patrick Queen, seeing that we got Peyton Wilson in the draft, who's been having a phenomenal preseason so far. He's been making a lot of headlines. Corey Trice figures to, play a full season this year. I think he can complement JPJ very well as far as the secondary goes. Minkah Fitzpatrick, a ball hawk in the free safety. So it's definitely going to be the unstoppable, the immovable object against the unstoppable force right here, offense versus defense. However, one mismatch right here, I never trust Kirk Cousins when it comes to playing high-octane defenses like this. I feel like if we just get the pass rush going, TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith keep doing what they're doing as far as the edges go, and we can stop the run effectively here, cause turnovers, which I know we're capable of doing, and Kirk Cousins is turnover prone at times. I really think we can go in here and get the job done over the Falcons. I'm going to go with my boys to start off the season 1-0. I like us in this matchup. I think the Falcons will give us a really good game. Like I said, just because they know Arthur Smith. But in the end, I just think that we have a couple more advantages over Atlanta in this one. I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers to get the job done over the Atlanta Falcons. Okay, next up, we got my personal toilet bowl of the week. This is the first one of the season. Tennessee Titans and the Chicago Bears. Not because I think both teams are trash, just because I think it's the least interesting matchup of the week. Tennessee and Chicago. So the Titans, they got a new defensive coordinator, and I think that they're capable of making Caleb Williams work. You're going up against a rookie quarterback like that. Rookie quarterback against a defense that looks to have a new life as far as the pass rush goes. That can be an advantage for Tennessee right there. But Caleb Williams has actually looked pretty okay so far. I think he just needs to be more careful with the football. And like I said, I think Tennessee's able to exploit that a little bit in this matchup. But overall, I really don't know if the Titans are going to be able to be as productive offensively as they have in years past, because losing Derrick Henry like that, not totally in love with that. The Bears, they have, they obviously got Caleb Williams. They already have had a stacked weaponry for him, so it kind of seems like that they just set up the future for him. I really don't know who to go with in this game because I just am unsure completely about both teams. So in a situation like this, whenever I'm unsure of who to pick, I go home team. I'm going to go with the Bears just because I have to pick someone to win and just because I really don't know who to go with. So I'm going to go with the home team. I like the Chicago Bears in this matchup. Wouldn't surprise me if Tennessee won just because of the defense, but I'm going to go with Chicago here. Next up, Arizona Cardinals and the Buffalo Bills. This one is in Buffalo. As the Cardinals, I think the only thing that they got going for them in this game is that they can run the ball efficiently. And if there's one thing that the Bills have had trouble with over the past couple of seasons is that they have had a weakness with stopping the run. James Conner has had a rejuvenized career since joining the Cardinals. So I think the Cardinals got that going for them at least. But overall, I just think this is an incomplete Cardinals team. But the Bills, they're far from perfect too. The Bills, they lost a lot of games that they should have won last season, and that's why they barely took home the AFC East crown again. And then they lost in the playoffs again to Kansas City. And now the Bills in the offseason, they lost a lot of that defense. Now they're going to be potentially starting a rookie at linebacker, which I think he has more than enough talent to succeed. But overall, also losing Stephon Diggs, even though he was a locker room cancer, he was still Josh Allen's top target. I really don't know. Bills, they lost a lot of pieces on that team, and this might be their last real chance at bringing home a Lombardi to Buffalo, but they got a soft opponent to start off the season with. I'm going to go with the Bills to get the job done over the Cardinals here. Start off the season 1-0. Give me Buffalo. Next, we got the Patriots at the Bengals down in Cincinnati. The Patriots, they're coming off a miserable season, and things really don't look a whole lot better for them. They lost Matthew Judon, as I said, in my Falcons Steelers slot right there. And there are actually rumors, believe it or not, that Drake may not start in this game as they're looking at Jacoby Brissett potentially starting. I don't know why they're not starting Drake. They may not start Drake May in this game, even though they took him in the draft, and that's what the Patriots pretty much wanted. So again, that's just the Patriots just being in what the hell are we doing type of mode right there. Like I said in my season predictions, it's a new era in New England. Bill Belichick is no longer head coach. And I really don't know how well that this new guy, HC, is going to be doing for them. But then you take a look at the Bengals. They finished last place, sure, but they won 9 games pretty much with Joe Burrow missing more than half the season and Jake Browning putting up some good numbers when his number was called up to the plate. But the Bengals coming into this one, it's not just Joe Burrow. Well, it's not Joe Burrow that's hurt this time. Now their offensive line is dealing with injuries. Mibbs has a pec issue. Trent Brown has a back tightness, and they lost one of their guys for the whole season. So the Bengals definitely have an O-line issue right there, and now Joe Burrow is going to be running for his life even more under center. Already a big concern right there. But the Bengals, I mean, extending T. Higgins, I think that was a good one. I think that was a big move for them right there. They still got Jamar Chase. I like the Bengals in this matchup just because of New England's lack of weaponry and because the Bengals, even though they lost Joe Mixon, I really don't think that's going to hinder them that much. And I think last year showed more of how much of an offensive mind that Zach Taylor is. I like the Bengals in this matchup to go against the Patriots so much that this is going to be my lock of the week right here. Yeah, that's right. This is my lock right here because the Patriots, simply because of the fact that A, they have like no one on their roster, and B, they may not be starting Drake May. Not saying Drake May is going to light up the world because he's a rookie, but I mean, come on, you drafted the kid. Give him a chance at least. But I'm going to go with the Bengals in my lock of the week right here. Now we got my personal rivalry of the week. First one of the season. We got a rematch of week 18 last season between the Houston Texans and the Indianapolis Colts going at it in Indy. I think this is going to be a pretty fun matchup right here. So the Texans, man, did they upgrade in the offseason. Personally, I think they had the best offseason out of any team in the NFL. Adding Joe Mixon, they got Stephon Diggs from Buffalo, and they drafted well, thanks large part to the Cleveland Browns for being, well, the Browns. And man, now they got Tank Dell. CJ Stroud, phenomenal rookie year last year, offensive rookie of the year. This Texans team is going to be fun to watch. They're going to be a really good team this year. And DeMeco Ryans, defensive-minded guy. He can really make that defense work. I really like the direction that the Texans are headed. Then you got to take a look at the Colts. There are no slouches themselves, in my opinion. I predicted Indy to be a playoff team this year, and I think that I think you have a solid case for them being one. Anthony Richardson figures to play this whole season. He missed a lot of last year due to injury, but when Anthony Richardson did play, he looked to live up to the superstar potential that he has. Hopefully it's just not Andrew Luck 2.0 with him, but Anthony Richardson looks good. And then you got Pittman on the outside with him. I think that works real well. This Colts team, they got a solid offense as well. Their defense still needs a little work, in my opinion, but overall, I like the direction the Colts are headed. But man, overall, I just like that. I just like the Texans and how well that they build up this team. I'm going to go with Houston to win a really close one over the Colts here. I think the Colts make it a really solid game, but in the end, I just think that Houston is just the more rounded team. I'm going to go Houston, even though I can see Indy winning this one. Kind of in the same boat for this next matchup here. We got the Jaguars and the Dolphins down in Miami. Battle of Florida right here. As a big red flag right here for the Dolphins, even though I do think they're more than capable of winning the AFC East. They have a lot of players as of this recording. Remember, I am recording this in mid-August, and it's premiering right now on Labor Day. They do have a lot of players that are questionable for this game right here. I'm not going to read off the whole list, but I do know a lot of their players are questionable. I do think the Dolphins are capable of playing through that, but if these players that they have are not going to play in week one, I think that is going to be I think that puts them at a disadvantage right there, because Jacksonville, they're really no slouches either. They had a really bad collapse to close out 2023, kind of a role reversal from 2022 with them. And Jacksonville comes in this game relatively healthy. So I think if Trevor Lawrence just limits his mistakes and he's able to be more accurate with throwing the ball, because I really think Trevor Lawrence really isn't all that careful with the football, even though he has a strong arm. I don't know. I was kind of back and forth on this one. Part of me wants to pick Jacksonville with the upset because Miami comes in a little banged up, but I'm going to let time pass a little bit, and I'm going to go with the Dolphins for right now. This pick might change, actually. I'm going to take a look more at the status quo for the Dolphins leading up to this premiere. But for right now, I am going to go with Miami, even though this pick might change. But I'm going to go with the Dolphins for right now. Next, we got the Panthers at the Saints in New Orleans. As the Panthers last season, miserable year, 2-15. But they did make some solid changes in the offseason. And like I said, I don't think it's fair really to blame Bryce Young for the entire reason why that the Panthers had the season they had. But they did try to at least fix it, so I'll give them credit there. They brought in Hunt for the offensive line. They had an okay draft. Miles Sanders, I think, is still a stud. And really, Carolina figures to have a better season, but I don't know if it's enough to really keep them out of last. But we'll see. At least they're trying. As for the Saints, low-key, I think the Saints are going to have a really bad year this year. They lost their right tackle for the year. Their O-line, other than that, is just completely busted on top of that. Both their tackles really don't really strike me as guys that you fear going up against. And I think it's just going to be a long year for Derek Carr. He's going to be running around in that pocket like his older brother David Carr did with Houston back in '02. So I think it's just going to be a miserable year for Derek Carr behind under center. Alvin Kamara, while he's still good, I just don't think he's as effective as he used to be. And I do like Chris Olave. I think he's a great young talent that the Saints have there. But overall, I just look at the Saints team, head coached by Dennis Allen, who's not a winner in my opinion. Neither is Derek Carr. And really, I just think the Saints are like I said, I low key think that they're going to have a bad year. They're either going to be very mediocre or they could even potentially be awful this year. I think it's just going to be slightly below average, but it wouldn't surprise me in the least bit if they were awful this year. But I think they'll get the job done over Carolina here. I think they'll beat the Panthers. I think their defense will definitely bring the heat to Bryce Young. We'll see if Bryce Young has learned from his mistakes in his rookie season. Only time will tell, but I'm going to go with the Saints in this one. Next, we got the Vikings and the Giants. Oh, man. The Vikings need a hug, man. I truly feel bad for that fan base and that franchise right there. I have never seen a more snake-bitten franchise in any sport in my life than the Vikings. Listen to what happened to the Vikings from mid-July to about early August. Because I'm convinced at this point that God just hates the Vikings. I don't know what the Vikings did in their past to piss God off, but they just, wow. That's all I got to say. Their rookie corner, Kyrie Jackson, tragically passed away in a fatal crash. Very sad right there. Never even got a chance to play it down in the NFL. Very sad right there for a young man to pass away like that. You follow that up with Jordan Addison getting a DUI, and then you follow that up with him getting hurt in practice. Don't know the severity of it, but geez, man, a double whammy for him. That's bad enough. Blackman tore his ACL, out for the season, and then their other corner got hurt on the very next day after that. And the cherry on top, the diarrhea Sunday for this, J.J. McCarthy, I don't know if they planned at starting him at quarterback, but they at least drafted him, so they thought highly of him. He tore his meniscus, and he's out for the whole season. Brutal. I mean, have you ever heard of any team suffering more of a brutal offseason than this? Wow. That's all I got to say. So I think Sam Darnold's probably going to be your starter if you're a Vikings fan, to me. And Sam Darnold is just not a winner. I mean, I know he had an awful Jets team and he had an awful Panthers team, but he didn't really do anything to prove that he's a winner. So he's just a journeyman who's just not a good quarterback at this point. The Giants, I don't think they're a great team either, but they're at least trying to improve the team. I like the Brian Burns addition to go with Dexter Lawrence, but I still think they're just held back by Daniel Jones. I just don't think Daniel Jones is a good quarterback with his fumbling issues, his turnover problems, and the fact that Giants don't even have a solid number one receiver for him. This is going to be a make or break year for Brian Daboll, in my opinion. They also lost Saquon Barkley to Philadelphia. So, that's something I forgot to mention in my Packers-Eagles pick. I completely forgot about Saquon Barkley, to be honest with you. But, yeah, they lost Saquon Barkley. So things aren't really looking too good for the Giants, but at least they're trying to improve the team. And like I said, this is a make or break year for Brian Daboll. If the Giants miss the playoffs this year and have another losing season, I think they need to move on from Daboll. This will be the second straight year that they missed the playoffs since winning a playoff game and against this very opponent that they played, against the Minnesota Vikings. So, I think the Giants, for them to win, they got to disrupt Sam Darnold, which is a pretty easy task right here. And they just got to make sure that Justin Jefferson doesn't go off. But locking down Justin Jefferson is a big chore right there. So even though I do think the Vikings have weapons and they can potentially win this game, I just don't trust them defensively all that much. So I am going to make this my upset of the week. That's right, folks. This is my upset of the week. I'm going with Big Blue to get it done over the Vikings. I like Daniel Jones doing it to the Vikings again. I think the Giants will get it done defensively, and I just don't trust Minnesota as far as the quarterback play goes. I'm going with the Giants to get the upset over the Minnesota Vikings. Now you got your later slate of Sunday games. Starting off on the West Coast, we got an old school AFC West rivalry between the Las Vegas Raiders and the Los Angeles Chargers. This one is at SoFi. Raiders coming off an interesting season where they were pretty slow for the first portion of the season, but then they bring in Antonio Pierce as interim head coach, and all of a sudden they look like a more competent team. And I really think this Raider team does enjoy playing for Antonio Pierce, as I think he earned being the full-time head coach for them. As the Chargers, a lot of people are saying that they're going to be really bad this year. I don't see it that way. I think the Chargers can have what it takes to be a good offensive team, but at the same time, the newer weapons now that Justin Herbert has with both wide receiver and running back is going to be a test for him. Plus, they got in a new head coach in Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh is a proven winner, in my opinion. I know a lot of people don't think that he's a good coach, but I say otherwise. I think he's a really good head coach. But anyone's an upgrade over Brandon Staley. That's the whole point of that. They needed to get rid of that guy real badly. They got the defensive line, in my opinion, and it can be good to get to. I think it might be Gardner Minshew starting in this game for Vegas. So I think that's a mismatch right there, the quarterback matchup right there. As for the Raiders, I think they can beat the Chargers right here with moving the ball efficiently and draining the clock because they got that kind of momentum with Antonio Pierce. And plus, on the defensive side, I like the Wilkins pick with, pairing him with Max Crosby on defense. So there's some things going on with Vegas right here to give them some kind of edge over LA. In the end, though, I really don't trust the Raiders all that much. They're one of the teams in Pick'em I can never pick. I pick the Raiders to win, they lose. I pick the Raiders to lose, they win. So right here, I'm going to go with the Chargers to get the job done. Again, don't really know who to go with. I'm going to go home team here. So pretty much by my logic, the Raiders are probably going to win. So I'm going to go LA to get the job done over Vegas. Then we got the Broncos and the Seahawks. And I'm just going to say it right here. This is looking like another big mismatch right here. Bo Nix looks okay for the Broncos, but, he's a rookie going up against a new and improved Seahawks defense, in my opinion. They got the Ravens' former defensive coordinator as their head coach now, so they got more of that in-your-face kind of defense right there. Geno Smith figures to come back. He's still got he's still got DK Metcalf to work with right there, and the Seahawks can still go off offensively. It's just going to be a big test for Denver. And like I said in my season predictions video, I really think the Broncos are in the running for being the worst team in the NFL this year. I mean, these are the two franchises that both had Russell Wilson, and now Russell Wilson doesn't play for either team. And ever since Super Bowl 48 between these two franchises, the Seahawks have just been kicking the crap out of the Broncos, and I expect that to continue. I'm going to go with Seattle to get the job done over Denver here. I just think it's a really big mismatch for the Broncos. Next up, we got two of my most hated teams in the NFL going at it. The Dallas Cowboys and the Cleveland Browns going at it in Cleveland. So I'm just going to say it right now. The Cowboys, despite what their record may have you and despite what their team has you thinking, the Cowboys have all these new contracts with them right here. And it's just, what are they doing? I mean, are they really going to pay CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott all that money, along with Micah Parsons as well, bringing back Ezekiel Elliott, who's washed up right now? I don't know what the Cowboys are doing. Plus, they lost Tony Pollard. Sure, the defense is still strong, and still it's easily a top 5 defensive unit in the league. Don't get that mistaken, but man, the Cowboys, I love to say it, I don't think anyone wants to play for them. This is Dallas's last true chance with Dak Prescott. A lot of people are saying that last year was. I'm giving them 2024, and that's it. If the Cowboys miss the playoffs this year, or if they have another early playoff exit and fail to reach the NFC Championship game at the very least, I'm truly convinced the Cowboys will never win another Super Bowl with Jerry Jones as owner. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Jerry Jones drafts well. I think he builds up good teams, but his ego always gets in the way. Jerry Jones, it's like, I hate the guy, but I love him at the same time. He's got a big ass ego. He builds really good teams with the Cowboys, but it's his ego that gets in the way of players not wanting to be in Dallas, So it's like, yeah, Jerry, I hate you, but I love you. I simultaneously love and hate Jerry, But then you take a look at the Cleveland Browns. Deshaun Watson, despite what dumbass Browns fans may have you think about him, he went 5-1 in the games that he started last year. Yeah, they won those games because of the defense. Watson didn't really do anything. Okay, they should really be saying they won those games without Nick Chubb. That's even more impressive because I think Deshaun Watson is so overrated. I mean, the Browns won those games with what? Dorian Thompson-Robinson and Joe Flacco. I mean, come on. They made the playoffs with Joe Flacco, for crying out loud. Kevin Stefanski and the defense was the reason the Browns made the playoffs, not the quarterback carousel. Okay? And I think the Browns will be able to terrorize Dak right here, and I got Cleveland winning this one. I think the Browns defense is definitely going to get up in Dak. Their only real problem is having to lock down CeeDee Lamb if the Cowboys even bring him back, in my opinion. But defensively, I mean, come on. This is a no-brainer. I think the Browns will just be all over the field with Dak right here, and I think that they're just going to punch the living crap out of him. Like I said, these are two of my most hated teams in the NFL, but I hate the Browns a little less in this one. I can't stand the Cowboys. I am a hardcore Cowboy hater. I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns to win this one over Dallas. Then we got my personal trap game of the week. That's right. I'm a Star Wars geek. I love that meme. And I decided to bring this back for this season. This is my trap game of the week. Washington at Tampa Bay. So Washington with new ownership, I think they can only go up because Daniel Snyder is a complete dumpster fire. And they're really high on Jaden Daniels, and it's not hard to see why. He's got great escapability, he's got great maneuverability, and they have a good scouting report on him. I like where Jaden Daniels is headed. And Tampa Bay, even though they brought their whole team back and they won the NFC South by total default last year, in my opinion, is that really a good thing for them? Is that the question? So I really don't know what to make of this for the Buccaneers because, like I said, that whole team is back, but did they even deserve to win that division with Atlanta now having new hopes? I don't know, man. I don't know if Tampa has that kind of defense that can make Jaden Daniels work. They have some guys that can make him work, but really, I just don't know if they're that capable of doing it. So not totally sure, but I am actually going to go with Washington on this one. I can see Tampa Bay winning this one because I do like Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans, the Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans factor in this one. But I don't know. I think Washington, I think a lot of people are sleeping on Washington this season. I do think they can make some noise, and I do think that they have an offense that can definitely be a league leader in something this year. So, yeah, I'm going to go Washington to get the job done over Tampa Bay. Not really an upset because, like I said, it's my trap game of the week. What that means pretty much for me personally, a trap game is that, it's not so much of an upset, but it's if you're not careful, you can lose this game sort of game. You know what I mean? Not necessarily an upset. I think that's what this is right here. I'm going to go Washington to get the job done over Tampa Bay. Sunday Night Football. Check your local listings as we got a rematch of the wild card between the Los Angeles Rams and the Detroit Lions. Going at it in Detroit. So the Lions, they beat the Rams in the wild card last season for their first playoff win since, checks notes, January of 1992. So the Lions, they have a lot of momentum going in this one. They beat their old quarterback, Matt Stafford, in the wild card game. And the Lions, I think that they really improved with their team as well, coming off winning their first NFC North title, their first division title since 1993. And the Lions, they are very capable of repeating as division champions. The only thing really setting them back, in my opinion, is Jahmyr Gibbs. He's dealing with a little bit of a hamstring problem. But with the Lions having that high octane offense, with LA's old quarterback in Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown, I really think the Lions can go toe-to-toe with anybody. Defensively, I thought the Lions, that was one of their biggest, I think that was a weak point last year for them, but they upgraded defensively. Terrion Arnold at secondary was a great addition, and they fixed up a lot more of that defense. I still think they need a couple more patchwork up on the secondary, and Detroit can probably be the most complete team in the NFL, but I really like the direction that the Lions are headed. As for the Rams, they made the playoffs, obviously. They played this very team in the wild card last year, and they got newfound hope with Puka Nacua at wide receiver. Cooper Kupp, he figures to play a full season this year. And even though they lost Aaron Donald to retirement, I think they did a really good job with finding his replacement, as the Rams do have a solid defense still. But one fatal problem for LA is Matthew Stafford is a little banged up going into this one. So that kind of offsets the Jahmyr Gibbs sort of thing right there for Detroit. This is another strong candidate for game of the week, but I think Ravens Chiefs one-ups it a little bit. So lots of headlines going on here. One takeaway, I still don't trust Stafford against winning teams, and I still don't trust him in prime time. I like the Lions to do it again to the Rams. I got Detroit winning a really good game over the Rams here. Give me Detroit. Wrapping up week one, we got the Jets at the 49ers in San Francisco. Aaron Rodgers goes to play his kryptonite in the 49ers. Aaron Rodgers is 0-4 against the 49ers in the playoffs, and the 49ers are the one team that have seemed to give Aaron Rodgers the most grief throughout his career. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers missed basically all of last season, as in week one against the Bills. He went down with an injury, and he missed all of last season. Now he's 41 years old, and I'm just going to say it. You just don't have a realistic expectation for a quarterback to miss the whole season and for him to just miraculously come back and perform at a high octane level, let alone when he's in his early 40s. He should have just retired after 2022, in my opinion. But the Jets, I mean, a lot of people are saying this is a Super Bowl team because they can run the ball well and they got a great young defense, and Robert Saleh is a good head coach. I personally disagree. I don't think the Jets are a Super Bowl team. I think they can make the playoffs, but I don't know about them being a Super Bowl team just because of Aaron Rodgers' age. And I think, with him going up against an elite defense in San Francisco, that's going to be a problem right there. Sure, the 49ers lost a lot of pieces on that defense, but it's still, in my opinion, the most complete roster in the NFL. Obviously, the biggest headline with the 49ers this whole offseason has been Brandon Ayuk. Does he stay or does he go? The Browns, Patriots, and Steelers were all rumored to make trades for him, but if they were rumored to make those trades and they would have made those trades, they would have done it by now. I think Ayuk is staying in San Francisco, and if he does stay, the 49ers are pretty much the same team than they were last year, minus a couple of pieces, and they got some of the players that were hurt coming back this year. So, yeah, there you go right there. I'm going to go San Francisco to get the job done here over the Jets. Maybe the Jets can make it a good game. Maybe they can't. But Aaron Rodgers against that Niner defense, I think, some of his demons are going to pop up here and I got the 49ers winning it over the Jets. That'll do it. Those are my week 1 predictions. And let me know what you think down in the comments below. Pick'em is back, baby. Football's back, baby. I'm Mac, checking on out for the day. Have a good one, everybody.